Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here again today. And as we wind up a month and start a new psalm. So, if you will, get your Bible and look with me here in the 79th Psalm, Psalm 79. We'll be picking up here with this psalm, and this is a an interesting psalm. Again, another psalm of Asaph, and his psalm is about the destruction of Jerusalem. Jerusalem has been devastated by war. Probably the Babylonian invasion excuse me, that happened in about 586 BC was most likely the setting. There certainly other times when it comes to writing about the destruction of Jerusalem that could be, but again, this one most likely would be there that time period. This psalm kind of goes along with the 74th psalm, and so it's again just a prayer. It's kind of really hard to describe. You see, as we get into it, it's kind of a prayer, a little bit of a complaint, a kind of a discussion with God about why this has happened. It's really a kind of a peculiar psalm to me. Anyway, you may look at it and think, he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's fine too. But it just seems like just the nature of the psalm is a bit odd to me. Is the Israelites are trying to gain some understanding as to why this has happened, and at the same time, they're also asking for the help of God in recovering and restoring their nation. So we'll pick up, and you can decide yourself kind of what you think about the tone of the psalm. Starts out in verse 1 with, again, kind of a familiar theme. O God, the heathen are come into thine inheritance. Thy holy temple have they defiled. They have laid Jerusalem on heaps. And so once again, we see that the first thing they do is in this psalm is go directly to God with their concern. They're going through a really difficult time. They again, obviously, we have seen through history the ravages of war and what happens to cities and nations as they go through war. There's famine and destruction, and it's we've seen those stories played out. So we kind of know what Jerusalem, their situation was, but not only that, the emotional and the spiritual toll that this would have caused for them, because again, they believed that they were God's chosen people, that they were God's special people, and for them to, and I think we see that right there in that first verse, the heathen have come, and so we're God's special people. You chose us. You've made these promises to us, but the heathen have been able to overrun us. The heathen have been able to attack your inheritance. We are your inheritance. They were able to attack the holy temple, the place where we meet with you. Verse 2. the dead bodies of thy servants have been given, the flesh of thy saints, and so they're really struggling with the mental, the spiritual aspect of God's people being overrun by heathen. But not just that God's people were overrun by heathen. We've talked about this before, that that in that time one of the peculiarities of war in that time was that it wasn't just that your army defeated my army, it wasn't just that your army was stronger than my army, but they also took it very literally, very spiritually, that if whoever won the war, their God won. And so as Asaph says these things about your inheritance, the holy temple, your servants, your saints, it's also they're struggling with this idea that God himself, his name, his honor had been defiled. And so it was a really troublesome, it dealt with every element of their being, their mental, their spiritual, their emotional, physical. This was just a very devastating situation for the people of that time. And again, as we're able to sit here today and look back, they say hindsight is 20/20. One of the things that people failed, I think, to understand in that time was that the reason this had happened, that they were leaving out an important piece of this story, as people often do. They were leaving out the fact that the reason that they had been overrun, the reason that they had been defeated, it was a result of their own sin. And so as they are concerned about the temple, concerned about the servants, the saints, the honor, the name of God, what they were failing to put their mind around was, or failing to acknowledge and accept, at least, was the fact that they were responsible, that it was their sin that had brought this judgment onto Jerusalem. And reminder for us is that sin always results in judgment. It always results in punishment. But also we have to understand and remember that our sin is, just as these people were concerned, our sin is a reflection, or it impacts others' impression, others, the image that others have of God himself. And so it's important for us to remember that in our life decisions and our choices, that our decisions, our actions result in judgment or blessing. But also they are a reflection on our God. Many of you, you don't hear this much anymore. Maybe we should, but I think maybe a lot of the folks, a lot of you who are watching us this morning, you grew up in a time when your name meant something. You know, back in a day when a handshake agreement was your name, and so parents would many times tell their children about don't do anything that brings shame on our family, on our family's name. Well, the same thing is true of living for the Lord, that we live a life so that we don't bring shame, and that's the piece of this puzzle I think that that the Israelites were missing at this point. They just were kind of feeling like God had abandoned them, that God had just let the Babylonians run over them, and not accepting any of the responsibility for their own sin. Their blood have they shed like water round about Jerusalem, and there was none to bury them. We are become a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and a derision to them that are round about us. They again are, Lord, we are. It's embarrassing that we got defeated like that. It's embarrassing that we got ran over like that. But and at this point in the psalm, we're not seeing where they seem to be embarrassed by their sin that provoked God to allow their judgment. Verse 5, how long, Lord, will thou be angry forever? Shall thy jealousy burn like fire? And so, again, as I read that, the appearance is to me that it's still the Israelites were saying, God, you're angry. You did this. You allowed this to happen, but they're still not recognizing their responsibility for the judgment that has happened in their life. And so again, as we start into this psalm, I think it serves to us again as a somber reminder that our actions have consequences, that our life, the choices we make have consequences. There are consequences to our actions, but I don't want to leave on such a somber note. I also want to point out to you once again that one of the main lessons we learn throughout the book of Psalms is in this situation, even in this situation, the Israelites are able to go and to pour out their heart to the Lord, to tell Him of their pain, to tell Him of their hurt, to ask for understanding of the situation and for clarity and for healing. And so again, there's probably more lessons we could draw, but if we get those two, I think we'll have done a good day's work. That our sin has consequences, but no matter our situation, God's doors are always open. He's always willing and ready to hear from His children, and wants to hear from His children. And we have that liberty and that freedom, the ability to be able to go before Him and share our hurts and our pains and even our questions, and ask Him, Lord, we don't understand what's going on. What's happening here? Can we have clarity? So remember those two things. Your actions have consequences, and God's doors are always open. All right. Hope that helps you. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.